You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
And Radio 1 listeners, thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. We are so happy to be here with you again on Friday. It is the fourth Friday of the new year, and we are pleased to have another exciting show for you. And you all know with all that's going on in politics, I can hardly turn my head from the TV. I don't know what's coming next. So we're going to go and talk to Dr. Julian first, and then in our second half, we'll be talking to Attorney Dana Stebbins. She's going to be talking about the same subject, but she's going to talk about all the things that have happened. She may not have gotten them all, but it's more than I know about, and more than most of you know. She just wants you to know what exactly has happened in 2 weeks. So tune in to the Lyndia Grant Show this Friday and tell others to tune in. So now let's hear from Dr. Julian. She's going to start telling us something similar. She's going to tell us what all is going on since Inauguration Day. Dr. Julian Malvo, talk to us today.
Oh, my sister. This man is like a bull in a china closet. He is just going upending everything. My grandma used to say, a bull in a china closet, somebody who just didn't have any regard or respect for anything. That's what we're seeing now. This is not the most important thing, but it's important to me, so I want to start with it. It's an attempt to erase the Tuskegee Airmen from our history.
I saw that.
They said that the Air Force has a training video. It has the Tuskegee Airmen in it. It has women, the first women in it. Women, of course, in World War II were funneling supplies across the ocean. They were not allowed to fly or to drop bombs, but they were essential because they freed up space for the men who were fighting, for them to do what they were doing. They took them out of it, too. Now, a bunch of people hollered and shouted, and so they put it back in. But the fact that they think they could do that, says something about who and what they are. Mm-hmm. Now, Jim Acosta, who I respect greatly, CNN anchor, who was a child of Cuban immigrants, announced his departure from the network on Tuesday. He left with a parting message. It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to truth and hope. We don't know why he's leaving. No one has said. But it's very interesting that message really speaks to the integrity of the news media and the integrity that many of them do not have. We wish him well. We're sorry for him leaving, but we know that he's going to do great things to, as he said, never again give in to the lies. And there are lies. So, on Tuesday, the president said he was putting a hold on any grants, freezing grants. No money would be expended from the federal government for any programs. As the day went on, what we saw were people saying, what does that mean? Does it mean cutting Head Start? Does it mean cutting other grants? I saw a senator on talking about what about the money going to universities to study health issues? And they backed up a little bit and said, well, it's not everything. It's just some things. But this is their pattern. Coming out crazy, come back to be halfway reasonable. Tim Walz, Minnesota governor, Vice President Harris's running mate, said they put no thought into this. And no, they don't. They're just alarmists. A judge said no. One judge said you can't do that. They have to wait until next week. So that's not a comfortable place for people who lead nonprofits, who have Meals on Wheels will be affected, Lyndia. All these things affected. They don't care. They're just doing what they do. Mm-hmm. They've also said that the Centers for Disease Control cannot communicate with the World Health Organization. Well, how do we track viruses like used to be COVID? Now there's a bird flu thing coming out of Tanzania.
Yes.
Tanzania is not a wealthy country, so they can't track this. It has to be the WHO. And if someone has gone to Tanzania and come back, they're a possible infector. How are we going to keep up with that? Mm-hmm. But this is what these people want to do. let's not talk at all about immigration and about the wholesale arrests of lottie-dottie and anybody. Once upon a time, you couldn't go into a school or a hospital to look for immigrants. Now you can go anywhere you want to. In addition, this administration has said they're asking agents to arrest at least 75 people a day. 75 people a day, at least. So in many sweeps that we know about, people have gotten caught up. They weren't even illegal. There was a Army veteran, had his papers. They took him anyway. A woman married, had her papers, took her anyway. So this is what's going on. Now, the Department of Justice, assistant attorney generals have been fired because they worked on anything that had to do against the current president. They have, this is going to be, we're going to be in courts forever. Because some of these are civil servants. They're not political appointees, which means what? They have rights. Some of them are union. So they will be suing. Many people will be suing. They don't care. What they're doing is just saying, let's just have confusion. And that's what their goal is confusion. So don't get it twisted. This is not about presidential power. It's about confusion. And his relentless grab at power. It's really quite disgusting, but we're not going to go there because we're not going to do any name-calling today. We have nominees that are coming up this week. By the time this airs, we'll know a little more about them. Interesting, Patel, 23 Republicans have signed a petition against him. If the Democrats join with those Republicans, he will not be the head of the FBI. RFK, Caroline Kennedy, his cousin, had a video out. She called him a predator. She said he should not be confirmed. She described him as greedy for power and said that he was groveling to the current president because he desired power. So I don't know where that's going to go, but she is his first cousin. She is the daughter of John F. Kennedy. He's been pimping that name out as long as he's been out there, and hopefully people will pay attention to her. What about Tulsi Gabbard? There are several members of Congress, senators rather, who must confirm her. I have questions about her trips to Syria and other things. So we'll see how the dust rolls out, but what we know is this is challenging. Now, federal workers got an email today. They were told that if they resigned by February 6th, they would get severance through September 30th. So basically, they're being offered 8 months paid severance if they leave. Again, this is part of the Trump plan to streamline government. For some people, it's not a bad deal, especially if you're older. For you're younger, I'm not sure it's a good deal, and there may be legal ramifications. You do have the American Federation of Government Employees, a union, who has negotiated many things, and you just can't do that, Mr. President. People have protections, but you want to do that because you basically believe that you're king. This is crazy. But that buyout is something that makes sense for people to pay some attention to because there are possibilities for people who, can get 8 months pay. And that's nothing to snooze about for some people. The president went to North Carolina, and then he went to L.A., where he was extraordinarily disrespectful to Mayor Karen Bass. And Mayor Karen Bass has done her very best to deal with the fire situation, which she did not start nor cause. But there are many who are looking at that and attempting to disparage her. She's up for re-election in less than 2 years. And Bill Maher, of all people, did a video blaming her for the fires. So I guess she lit a match somewhere. No, actually, this is a black woman who's been an extremely competent mayor and a personal friend, I must say. And the attacks on her are unwarranted. But this is where we are in this country when we're talking about black women and leadership. So this has been a very rough time for us, and it's going to get worse. A young lady called me. She had said to me, I'm about to lose my job. What can you do to help me? She's a former Bennett Belle. I told her, I said, can't do anything. Did you vote? She lives in Maryland. She told me she didn't vote because she didn't believe in voting. I said, okay, so now you don't believe in working.
That's right, because you should have voted. That's right.
Elections have consequences. Mm-hmm. And what this man is running around acting like he has a mandate from the American people, he doesn't. He barely won. Let me say that again. He barely won. But the fact is that he did win, and we have to deal with it.
You have to deal with it. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. J. This has been helpful. My whole show is about politics this week. I thank you for being my guest today.
Absolutely. Thank you, my dear. Appreciate you.
We're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired. But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at WashingtonInformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
And we are back from our commercial break. Now we're going to go to our second guest, Attorney Dana Stebbins. This is our first time having her on for January, so Happy New Year, Dana Stebbins. I know we are near the end of the month, and all the listeners have really seen a lot happen based on what it is you've been talking about.
Yes, Happy New Year to you, Dr. Grant.
Well, thank you. Yes, indeed. I saw your congratulations. Thank you. So we're going to be talking today. Donna is thinking through what to say, and it made her realize that she said we're going to have to do more than one show. So let's start by talking about what have you observed, Dana, in this period since Trump's inauguration?
Okay.
And then tell us what is fascism.
Okay. Well, first, let me at least thank you for beginning this conversation a while ago between Dr. Malveaux and me on the shows that we've talked about what would happen under Trump, too. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, then we thought there may be some hope that it might not come to be as dire as we thought. But unfortunately, it is as dire, if not more dire, than we thought. So we are fully into Trump 2 and Project 2025 and all of the things that he's done so far, and it hasn't even been a month, have led me to conclude that we are in a period approaching fascism in this company. Fascism, for your listeners, quickly, it's a mass political movement that emphasizes extreme nationalism, militarism, and the supremacy of the nation over the individual. They advocate for the overthrow of existing systems of government and the persecution of their own political enemies. And although fascist leaders typically claim to support the everyman, which Trump did, in reality, their regimes align with powerful business and economic interests. Quickly, fascist leaders believe in the supremacy of certain groups of people based on characteristics such as race, religion, ethnicity, and nationality. It's also a cult of personality where these regimes cultivate images of their leaders as great figures to be loved and admired. And it's perpetrated through mass media and propaganda, which they gain control over. And then finally, they are anti-democratic. They leave little room for dissent, and they strive to centralize power in a small group of individuals. So if you listen to that brief definition, I didn't go into in depth, you will understand where we're headed, because the first steps that he has taken with all of the executive orders that he has issued is aimed at one group of people, eliminating others from the dialogue, cutting the government to only include people who are loyal to him, eliminating funding. So let me just tell you quickly about those so that you can really put a face on the fascist movement that we now have in the United States. His executive orders have eliminated medical research for such things as cancer and HIV. He has cut the funding for that. He has eliminated DEI offices, diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, which carried out the Civil Rights Act of making sure that our government was diverse and represented all people. He has eliminated nonprofit grants like Pell Grants and housing grants to all our community organizations. He put out an executive order that said America first before everybody else. And so under that order, he pulled us out of the World Health Organization. He started reviewing all foreign aid to all other countries. He renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and renamed Mount Denali Mount McKinley. In terms of immigration, he eliminated the protections that were offered from ICE raids so that now they can go into schools and churches without any notice or any warning and seize and control and arrest people. There's no asylum for refugees in the United States anymore. You cannot come in as refugee status. He is stationing troops at the borders, using our military to keep people from getting into the United States. He issued a national security series of executive orders where he revoked the security clearances for all of his enemies, those people that were on the January 6th insurrection committee in Congress, Dr. Fauci, who he fell out with, other people who were in his cabinet and resigned, no longer have active security clearances, and they no longer have security protection. So that even though Dr. Fauci's life has been threatened numerous times, he will not provide security protection. Fortunately, Dr. Fauci could assume the responsibility and afford to get his own. Then, another security order overhauled the federal government, and he put in charge of that overhaul 2 billionaires who have set up a new schedule in the federal government called Schedule F, which means that you no longer have merit-based hiring. Schedule F employees are hired purely on the basis of their loyalty to the ideology of this administration. He has net goal of 30,000, presently 30,000 civil servants who were in the federal government who have either been riffed, fired, or put on extended leave. These are the things that he's done. He now has the Department of Justice firing all prosecutors who were part of the investigation and trials for him where he was convicted of 14 felonies. Those federal prosecutors have been fired. He has frozen jobs for attorneys general after he fired 18 of them who backed court cases which went against him. So if that's not fascism, Lyndia, I don't know what is.
Oh, man, this is crazy. I tried not to watch, but now I'm afraid not to watch because there's so much going on. We need to know what's going on around us.
Yeah. I mean, this is only 2+ weeks worth of activity.
Exactly, yes.
That's all. He's got a lot more planned, which is why I said this conversation couldn't be had one time, because the next time I come back to talk with you, if you have me back again, he will have done more damage. He will have done more. And the lawsuits that are being filed to protect us, for example, the Civil Rights Act still exists. So all those DEI people and all those people have been fired just based on that violates the Civil Rights Act. The removal of funding for state civil rights offices, that violates it. But you have to go to court. You have to go to court and sue, and that takes a long time. And because we had this conversation before about how he has stacked the federal courts, there's no guarantee that they will uphold the law.
But Dana, what last question before we run out of time? What encouragement can you offer us, or strategies can we use to survive this movement into fascism here in the United States?
Well, let me start off by saying, Lyndia, as you know, elections have consequences. And so for those of us who were not paying attention, did not vote last time, did not participate in the electoral process, thought it would not make a difference, you now know it makes a difference. There are midterm elections coming up in a year and a half. We have to begin to look for and support candidates for the United States Congress and state houses who will work in our favor and will oppose all of this. We have to get involved civically. We have to fight every level that we can fight. We have to join movements. Churches are now housing young children who are afraid that their parents are going to be deported and they'll be by themselves. They're now housing them so that the parents don't have to go out to take them to school and get deported on the way to taking their children to school. At every level, we have to fight back as best we can. We have to find a way to fund our own programs until we can get this funding restored. We have to contribute to charities that support us and make sure that money goes to support the people we want it to support. We have got to become civically engaged. We have got to become better educated, and we have got to decide to advocate on behalf of ourselves at every opportunity and every level that we can.
In other words, we got to go back to almost what we used to do in the 60s.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly.
All right, Dana, thank you for being my guest today. We look forward to hearing more next month. It's no telling in a whole month what you might have to tell us that has happened. Thank you for being my guest today.
You're welcome. And I hope your listeners heard us and will start figuring out what they can do to help.
All right. Words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect. So be careful what you send out. Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Julianne Malvo and attorney Dana Stebbins. Tune in again next week to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things. Good day.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired." But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in. Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information. Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about two types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Goethe said it best when he said, "If I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that." We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information. Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Ida B. Wells, born into enslavement, was a journalist and activist. An avid reader, she read through the entire Bible many times. Wells was once asked to leave the ladies' car and sit in the colored train. She refused and train officials pushed her. Ida B. Wells retaliated but was pushed off the train at the next stop. A crowd of whites applauded. She vowed to get even. 3 of her close friends were lynched for opening businesses that cut into profits of whites. Everything changed for Wells. She spoke out internationally against lynching of blacks for the rest of her life. Through her efforts, lynching in America nearly disappeared by the time of her death. And NAACP founder, we salute Ida B. Wells for Women's History Month.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.